Hello friends, and welcome back to Auto Fixed Zone. In today's video, we'll discuss 6 warning signs that indicate a failing ignition coil in your vehicle, whether it's a single coil pack with 4 outputs and spark plug wires, or individual coil-on-plug units, where each coil operates one cylinder. 1. Loss of engine power. For an engine to run properly, it requires air, fuel, and spark. The ignition coil is the component responsible for generating the high voltage needed to create a spark at the spark plug. If the ignition coil becomes weak or fails, it will no longer produce sufficient voltage to jump the spark plug gap between the center electrode and the ground electrode. As a result, the spark becomes weak and incomplete, leading to poor combustion of the air-fuel mixture. This incomplete combustion directly causes reduced engine power and poor performance. So not every weak spark is caused by a faulty spark plug or damaged wire. The ignition coil itself may be the root cause. 2. Increased fuel consumption. Loss of engine power is almost always accompanied by increased fuel consumption, and here's why. When you attempt to accelerate, you naturally press harder on the accelerator pedal. This allows more air to enter the engine, and in response, the ECU injects a greater amount of fuel. Under normal conditions, a strong spark would ignite this mixture efficiently, producing higher torque and better acceleration. However, due to a weak spark caused by a failing ignition coil, combustion becomes incomplete. This incomplete combustion directly causes unburned fuel that provides no useful power, leading to higher fuel consumption. Engine vibration and rough idle. When an ignition coil fails, especially in coil-on-plug systems where each cylinder has its own coil, or when one output of a shared coil pack fails, the engine loses balance. This happens because one of the combustion chambers is no longer firing properly, causing engine imbalance. As a result, the engine develops rough idle, vibration, and shaking. In many cases, the ECU will register this as a misfire fault on a specific cylinder. To identify the faulty coil with the engine running, carefully unplug one ignition coil connector at a time. If unplugging a specific coil causes no change in engine behavior, the engine doesn't stumble or nearly stall, then that coil is not contributing and faulty. Replacing it will eliminate the vibration completely. 4. Hard starting when the engine is hot. There are several causes of hot starts, but a failing ignition coil is one of the most common. Ignition coils consist of 2 internal windings, a primary and secondary winding, that step voltage up from approximately 12 volts to as high as 45,000 volts in some engines. Because ignition coils rely on internal windings, they are highly sensitive to heat. As the coil ages or begins to fail, heat significantly affects its performance. When the engine reaches operating temperature, the coil may weaken. In some cases, after shutting the engine off, it will fail to restart until it cools down completely, or more precisely, until the ignition coil itself cools down. 5. Popping or backfiring from the exhaust. Hearing popping or backfiring noises from the exhaust is usually caused by one of 2 components, a failing ignition coil or a faulty fuel pump. This symptom often appears during engine startup. Once the engine reaches normal operating temperature, it may begin to run smoothly again and the popping noise disappears. 6. Engine will not start at all. There are many reasons an engine may fail to start, and we've covered them in detail in a previous video linked in the description. One of those causes is a complete ignition coil failure. In this case, if the RPM gauge moves during cranking, the crankshaft position sensor is working. If fuel is present at the injectors, the fuel pump is operating correctly. If the immobilizer warning light is not active, the immobilizer system is likely functioning. That leaves no spark at the spark plugs, which almost always points to a failed ignition coil. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and enable notifications so you never miss a new upload. This was Auto Fix Zone. See you in the next one.